Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Thompson. I have the pleasure of being CEO of Tuitio. And for those of you who haven't heard about Tuitio, we're in the student loan repayment assistance space. Thank you. Just some quick highlights of the company. It was founded in 2012. $15 million has been invested in the company to date. And our addressable market is the nearly $1.5 trillion in student loan debt that is growing. So oftentimes when I walk into large employers and we're trying to get the message across, we have to make the point of 1.5 trillion is a big number, but then how does it compare to other debt that your workforce has today? And one of the most amazing statistics, surprises everybody, is nearly twice the size of US consumer credit card debt today. So that's when it begins to hit home for people, when they say, I just never imagined there was that much student loan debt in circulation in this country. By the way, as you can see from the slide, the student loan debt is growing, and the credit card debt has flattened out since 2008. I expect those trends to continue. So when we're selling this into employers, oftentimes the conversation starts as millennial, 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 millennial. And once we've got you interested, then we pause and say, this is not a millennial issue. This is your entire workforce. So on the left, we break down the age segments and who has this debt. What portion of your workforce has it? And they all do, as you can see. One of the most startling numbers that I haven't brought out on this page is that the 50 and older age segments have the fastest growing student loan debt. And that is not because they graduated 25 years ago and haven't been paying it. It is because more and more and more, as education continues to rise in cost, the parents have to step in and help. So those turn into co-signed loans or Parent Plus loans. And again, another big surprise for the employers we're talking about, that the older age segments have a growing percentage of this debt, and it has implications on what they do. On the right-hand side, it's the average student loan debt by age group. And again, oftentimes people confuse this. They say, well, this is the recent graduates. That's not, in fact, the case. As you can see, as you get into your 30s, your debt level, on average, actually goes up. And just some kind of core statistics about what this is. As we look forward to May and June of this year, 7 out of 10 individuals who graduate from colleges and university in this country will have student loan debt. And we talk about the averages as $37,500 per person, but that's very misleading. Sure, that's the way that averages work, but oftentimes with large employers, when we begin to understand how much debt their employees have, it's $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 in debt. By the way, if I asked you a question, what do you think the highest student loan debt is of an individual on our platform? Nobody in this room would guess. Of course you wouldn't, because there's too many numbers. I doubt you'd even get close. It's $563,000 one person has. Now, he's making a lot of money, but he obviously has a lot of debt. And by the way, when you break it down by how much across age segments and what percentage have over 80,000 or over 100,000, the numbers are staggering. So again, another data point that we share with employers is all of this student loan debt starts as 10-year term debt. Then you graduate, and what we say is life happens. And one of the first things in life is you realize, I can't afford my minimum payment due. And now you have to choose a repayment plan. When you choose the repayment plan, your 10-year term debt turns into 21 years on average, and that number is growing. So now you've graduated from school, and you're done paying the student loan debt in your mid-40s. And where this all manifests itself is when you do a classic credit analysis of the individuals, and you say, how much debt do they have per their salary level? Many, many, many people in the workforce are literally broke today. On a monthly basis, they're cash flow negative because they can't afford the cost of housing, they can't afford their other expenses, they can't afford the minimum payment due on their student loan debt with the salary that they have. And if you're that individual and you've done everything right, the thing you're focusing your time and attention on is, where do I get my next job that allows me to get a raise because I can't afford to live with the one I have? So in the market today, I think we all know that unemployment's roughly 4%. That's the headline number. It's not. I can tell you that right now. We're out in Silicon Valley. It's not. I think it's negative unemployment in Silicon Valley. And our new Fed chairman recently said in one of his interactions with Congress that the educated workforce in this country has right around 1% unemployment. So the competition for talent has never been so fierce as it is today. And therefore, the cost of the turnover to these employers is very, very high. So what else is happening with this? Well, when you look at other benefits that this workforce can take advantage of, one of the amazing things is anything that requires an individual to take money out of their paycheck and contribute it to a benefit no longer works. 401k, matching contributions. For the first time ever, participation against eligible participants in the country is less than 60%. But for millennials, it's much, much, much lower. And we go to place after place, employer after employer, and it's the same story. We see declining participation, and those places where the participation is declining, the turnover is going up. Then when you ask those same individuals, hey, if your employer had student loan repayment assistance, how would that change your behavior? Now, very subjective, but nonetheless, they do say, boy, that would mean a lot to me. And if the emails that I get occasionally from some of the employees at our clients is any indication, they're beautiful. One last week from a person who said, literally, I never thought I'd be done with this. I just want to thank you and my employer for creating a light at the end of the tunnel. That's the type of benefit that we're talking about here and the implications on the individuals who have student loan debt. So how does this all work? It works for the employers by working with a company like us to choose what the plan design is for this benefit. The bookends on this today, the lowest we have is $25 a month. The highest we have is $500 a month. You can imagine the employer that is paying out $500 a month to their workforce for this benefit has people with a ton of debt, and they do. And what we try to do, and really the way this benefit works, is we try to get you to link your loans to our platform to understand what your total debt burden is. Through that linking, we find the highest interest rate loan. And as your employer is making contributions on your behalf, we electronically post that contribution against the highest interest rate loan to effectively buy down the interest that you'd otherwise pay against that debt and the term. And this is the end. All right. It's a terrific business. I hope everybody in the room, at some point in time, you say, we need this for our workforce, or we need this for ourselves. And hopefully it'll be a big benefit over the next 5 to 10 years. Thanks.